Hello, friends. This is Council Vice President Gabe Albornoz with another exciting program in a series of Cafecito in the Community, a program in which we have great conversations with community leaders to learn a little bit more about them, the issues they're working on, and some opportunities for our future. Joining us today is Mayor Jud Ashman from the great city of Gaithersburg. Mayor Ashman has done an absolutely outstanding job as a public servant, as one of the founders of so many different programs and services in Gaithersburg, including the book fair, which is now frankly world renowned, and is also a small business owner, grew up in our community, and I've had the opportunity to work with and interact with on a number of issues, especially during these last 2 years during the pandemic. Mayor Ashman's steady leadership has gotten his community through some extraordinarily difficult times. And Gaithersburg, like so many municipalities across the country, is at a crossroads as a community with a lot of opportunities and a lot of growth and a lot of opportunities for economic development. So Mayor Ashman, thanks so much for joining us on Cafecito in the Community, and welcome.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful, warm introduction. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. So Mayor Ashman, tell us a little bit about yourself. What was the road that brought you to mayor of Gaithersburg? What sparked your interest in public service?
You know, when I was growing up, I had no idea whatsoever I wanted to be involved in local politics. It couldn't be further from my radar screen. But when my wife and I moved to Gaithersburg in '97 with our two kids, I got involved in PTA and was involved with the schools. And my kids were, they were going to overcrowded schools. And at a certain point around 2001, the city was entertaining a potential development that was going to exacerbate dramatically the overcrowding at my kids' schools. Mm. So I organized, or I helped organize some of the people from PTA and some of the people from the neighborhoods to start going to City Hall on Monday nights when the council would have their meetings, and we would go and testify against this project. Well, little did I know how much I would be interested in not just my subject matter, but my agenda, but everything they were talking about was really interesting. I was struck by how at the local level, the mayor at the time, it was Sydney Katz, your colleague, and the council members really listened to what we said and considered public testimony. I think they gave it a high priority. In fact, our group won the issue. They ended up voting down the development at the time. Later, after school capacity came online, the project came back and was approved, which was fine. But I was bit by the bug of how government can and should work. And so a few years later, in 2005, I ran for city council. I'd stayed involved. I ran on a ticket with my friend Mike Sesma. We were two outsiders running against incumbents, and we didn't have endorsements or money or much name recognition, but we had a lot of shoe leather, and we knocked on doors, and it was a great experience. That year, Mike won. I fell short by 44 votes. And a couple years later, I ran again and luckily won a seat. And then in 2014, when my former mayor, Sydney A. Katz, decided to run for county council, my colleagues saw fit to appoint me to take his place, and I've had to run a couple of times. But just for the record, I would have served on the council with Sydney as my mayor until eternity. Just so you know.
I'll make sure he knows that. So thank you so much, Jud. So I actually have a close personal connection to the city of Gaithersburg. I happened to live there until I was 11 years old on 2 Federal Court across the street from the middle school and the indoor aquatic facility. And so I lived in Gaithersburg at a time where just north of Gaithersburg, I think there were more cows than people, but saw the development of 270 and how the red line grew exponentially. And I have such fond memories of picking up my dad with my mom coming home from work in DC through the Amtrak and being so scared of the train as it would come through, I would hide behind one of the benches. But it's been such a joy to see the evolution of Gaithersburg. We have Fortune 500 companies there, but it has really kept its core. It's really kept its spirit as a community that embraces its diversity, but also celebrates it. Tell me a little bit in your own words and from your own perspective, what your perceptions and perspectives are of Gaithersburg.
Well, thanks for sharing those sweet memories. Gaithersburg, well, we have fewer cows. In fact, the only time we see cattle in Gaithersburg is during the fair.
Yeah.
So things have definitely changed. It's still a wonderful place to live, work, learn, and play. Yeah, I mean, I think what you could say about Gaithersburg is that it's growing on all fronts. And that includes our suite of services, our parks, recreation, cultural offerings, our art scene, our population. We're now the third largest city in Maryland. Maryland, for those who don't already know, Maryland is a state with one large city and a bunch of small cities, and Gaithersburg is in the latter category, but the larger end of it. Diversity is so important. I think like one of the things my wife and I were struck by when we first came to Gaithersburg, we didn't know a soul. And we moved into a neighborhood we still happen to live in, which is extremely diverse. It's a townhouse neighborhood called Orchard Place. And I swear I would put the diversity of Orchard Place, it's a microcosm of Gaithersburg's diversity. As you know, one of the number 2 most diverse city in all of America. Yeah. And we were so embraced by our community and by the people. Then, our social circle grew larger with PTA and that sort of stuff. It was remarkable. It just was remarkable how people from all different parts of the world and different cultures just embraced each other. And Gaithersburg, I have described it before. There are these moments like when we have our 4th of July big event and there's a band playing some funky music and people are up dancing and you're just looking at all the people dancing. And I think to myself, as I'm just seeing this beautiful human tapestry, I'm watching the melting pot happen right before my eyes. Yes. And we're very lucky to be here. And I feel like there's just a spirit of welcoming, and it's just a beautiful thing about Gaithersburg.
I feel it too. The Old Town part in particular is one of my favorite places, one of my favorite local strips of streets here in Montgomery County. So tell me a little bit about what it's like being the mayor of a municipality. You have to juggle so much. There are constantly so many different challenges. You worked on the legislative side for a number of years, very successfully there, but now you're on the executive side of municipal government. Tell me about that difference, jumping from the legislative side to the executive side, and what it's like, how it feels to be a mayor of such a beautiful city such as Gaithersburg.
I got to say, I wake up every day proud and grateful for the responsibility that the residents have invested in me. And I feel it. I feel it all the time. Look, I've had the great good fortune to work with a terrific city council and a terrific staff. We have a proud tradition of being civil and collegial. We can disagree without being disagreeable. We can have a night full of 3-2 votes and then go out for a beer. That's the way our government has worked. And I don't claim to have started that. I'm the caretaker of this tradition. I learned virtually everything about playing this role as mayor from watching Sidney Katz do it, and from watching my colleagues Bridget Newton and Kate Stewart in Rockville and Tacoma Park, respectively. It's just a wonderful thing. We have been a remarkably productive local government. And if you look at policy on economic development, on the environment, on transportation, and just the fundamentals, like we provide what I consider an outstanding, and our residents tend to agree, an outstanding world-class level of services. And yet we have the lowest property tax rate of any of Maryland's large cities, and we're debt-free. So it's a great situation. I highly recommend it.
I love it. Well, maybe I should sign up for something like that. That sounds pretty great, Jud. And I just will speak in the first person about your Parks and Recreation Department, which I had the opportunity to interact with a great deal when I was the former director of the Rec Department. And it really is world class. You have fantastic facilities that don't just benefit Gaithersburg city residents, but the entire county and frankly, the region, because they've become destination spots. So what are some projects, what are some things that you're especially excited about on the horizon, things that we in the county should know about moving forward?
Well, the number one thing on my list is the potential for redevelopment at Lake Forest Mall. That's the number one thing. We can, because Lake Forest has been this from 40-year-old regional mall that everybody knows. Everyone has memories there. There's some piece of everybody's heart is at Lake Forest, but it's been underperforming for 15 years. We've seen it. It's not unique to Lake Forest. It's something that's happening to indoor malls throughout the United States. It's a complicated situation because, well, if you stand outside Lake Forest Mall and you look at it, it looks like it's one property. It's really 5 properties with 5 separate property owners, and they're bound by an agreement that says no one can really make a substantial change to their property without the permission of the other 4. That's why it's been underperforming this long and hasn't yet been redeveloped.
That sounds like what it's like to go to the movies with my family, but I digress.
Right. Or my family, where are we going to order for dinner or go out? So what really needs to happen, unlike what happens with our families, is someone needs to take over the whole thing, acquire all the pieces, and then come to us with a redevelopment plan. What the city has done to sort of grease the skids and foster a redevelopment situation is we updated our master plan recently. And our master plan outlines sort of a general vision with some general parameters of what can be on that property. And we're recommending a mixed use development with distinctive public spaces, lots of green space, some residential, some retail and restaurants, some commercial office or lab space, depending on, all kinds of factors. And we're excited about it. So I think what we've done is when the private sector does cooperate and the planets align and someone's able to acquire all those pieces, they'll have a better sense of what the community wants. And I think we'll be some steps down the road to getting a grade A redevelopment there. And I guarantee there's going to be a role for the county to play during this process.
Well, we're ready to play it. I have my own Lake Forest Mall story. I saw E.T. there when it first came out, and we were in line for almost 2 hours to be able to watch the movie there. It was actually the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater. Was at Lake Forest Mall.
Well, that was first off, that's great nostalgia for Lake Forest. Second, that's a great first movie.
Absolutely. It was really great. So the intersection, and you touched on this, Jud, the connection between the county and our municipalities, but in particular our 3 largest municipalities, is so important. The relationships and the partnerships and alliance. We've been working on this tax duplication issue, which we've finally made some headway on. But talk a little bit about that relationship, that synergy, why it's important, how it might be able to be improved. And in addition to Lake Forest, are there other opportunities for us to work collaboratively together?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'm really glad you asked it. We collaborate in many ways. For example, Gaithersburg has a police department. However, we share jurisdiction with Montgomery County. So depending on what unit might be closer to respond to a call, that's who you're going to get. We try, our department does try to answer most of the calls within the city limits first, but we collaborate every day with Montgomery County Police. Same thing with other facilities. We used to have a collaboration on our senior center, and this is an area where I think we would welcome the county to get back involved with us. There was a plan years ago before it was when around the time I was first elected in 2007. There was a plan floated for the county and the city to collaborate on building a new senior center / aquatic center. But then the financial crisis hit and everything got thrown off, and the county's made some different decisions since. But I'm telling you, there's real opportunity for working with the county. Another area that we collaborate on is social services. While it is technically the county's responsibility to provide social services to people in need, who need food, who need medical care, who need shelter, etc., the city council and I share the value greatly, and we actually voluntarily invest $1 million plus, that's a substantial number for our size budget, in working with granting to our nonprofit agencies that help serve those needs, and doing things that sort of help around the edges for what the county does. We do the same with some school programs and some parks and rec programs. So we are grateful. We're proud of what the county does in terms of services, and we feel really good about the partnership we have with you guys, and want to continue. But again, if you're looking for an immediate opportunity, getting back involved with our programs for seniors, there's some definite opportunity there.
Big time. It's the fastest growing demographic in the county and frankly,
Yes.
the country. So there is definitely opportunity for crossover. Well, Mayor Ashman, believe it or not, that's all the time we have today. Our time flew by today, but I want to thank you for your continued leadership, your partnership, your steady leadership through some extraordinarily difficult times. And I look forward to grabbing a beer with you in Gaithersburg sometime soon.
That sounds great. What a pleasure. Thank you so much, Gabe.
Thanks a lot. So that's it for our Cafecito in the community today. We look forward to seeing you in the community soon.